So I think I'm going to introduce the first speaker, Malina Tran, communications lead from Vegan Hacktivists.
Hey everyone. Oh, that's a little too loud. Are we good? Hey everyone, my name is Malina, and for those of you who speak Polish, yes, that means raspberry in your language and other Slavic languages. For those who didn't know that, fun fact for you. Just a little bit of a warning, I have been coughing throughout this conference. It's not COVID, so don't worry, but I may have to take a little break and have a coughing fit, just so you know. But jokes aside, let's just get started. So I am from Los Angeles originally. I'm currently based in Amsterdam, and I oversee content and communications at a vegan tech nonprofit called Vegan Hacktivists. We are a global community of volunteers who dedicate our time and services, whether it's software engineering, data design, content development, which is my wheelhouse. And we are a capacity building organization, which means that everything we do is 100% free for the organizations and the activists that we service. And so we do anything from web development to logo and branding design to general advisory services. And we also have custom in-house projects, two of which are our hallmark projects, which I'll be profiling as case studies during this presentation. So let's take a step back and talk about why this even matters. So it's pretty well established that advancements in technology has enabled social movements. And so we can look at examples such as Black Lives Matter and Arab Spring. And so with these instances, we have social media influencing the way grassroots organizations operate and how they're able to reach out to their target audience, as well as disseminate their message to the public. And so you can probably look at examples in your own organization and see the ways in which data and technology have really uplifted your work. And so that may be anything from mobilizing support for a campaign, to telling meaningful stories about your program's impact to potential donors, or even in the case of this conference, right, you're able to broadcast a local event to people from all over the world, and that's really powerful. And at Vegan Hacktivists, the way that we see our role is that we identify what are the needs of this community and how do we innovate on solutions by building technology that address those needs. And so I'd like to first talk about Vegan Linguist. It is our free content translation platform. And veganism is something that we've all been seeing as growing in popularity and entering the mainstream, and that's really great. There is a lot of content readily available in English, and if we're really going to make an impact in this world and reach audiences from all over the world, we really do need to consider, how are we making that content available in other languages? And so the way that this works is fairly straightforward. Individuals and organizations such as yourself can submit content and request translation in one or several of the 30+ languages supported by the platform. And our team of multilingual volunteers will just handle the rest. And so it's a very seamless platform, I would say. There's all sorts of built-in support for comments, for notifications, both on the platform and via email. We also have a robust review system. Because it is volunteer work, we want to make sure that there is some kind of auditing of the final content and make sure that it's language that is actually going to be used and reflected well. And so what's really great about this platform is that vegans have the opportunity to be active in their own time, at the comfort of their own home. And that aligns with our values of really inspiring other people, vegans, to become activists in their own right. And so that's really exciting for us. And the second project that I'd like to profile is activisthub.org. So it is both a social platform and it's also a data dashboard for street outreach. And so what we see in veganism, but also in other social justice movements, is that there just seems to be a lack of data point to let us know what is effective in terms of advocacy and activism And so, we're kind of just going out there and doing the work and not knowing how much it's reaching people. And so the way Activist Hub works is that there are unique codes that are generated, and then you as an activist would post that on outreaching materials that you would hand out in the streets when you're following up with people after a really good conversation. And so once the people that you speak to go home and they enter those codes, you can see how many people are looking up certain videos and how long they're watching them for, which websites they're clicking on, and ultimately who commits to veganism. And so what's great about that is that there is this feedback loop that we're creating, both through individual data and through aggregate data as well. And so people can start refining their outreach strategies. And that may be different based on demographics, that may vary based on geography, but it's really putting the data in the hands of activists. And we see that this type of approach, one that is very tailored and bottom up and not at all a one-size-fits-all model, is really the direction that we should be taking with activism. And ultimately, what that does is create a stronger, more effective movement. So we'll be very honest in saying that there is a lot that we don't know about the movement, which is why I'm really excited to announce today at this conference that we are undertaking an extensive survey just to get a sense of the landscape and the state of technology in our movement. And we'd also really like to just understand what are the technical and data needs of organizations. And so if you go to this URL, it'll redirect you to a very comprehensive survey. We do have an incentive in place for participants, but our team of researchers will essentially go through the data once it's done, and we will be publishing the survey results, which is going to be really exciting for us. This will be something in which we offer recommendations, and we'd also incorporate them into our organizational roadmap, and that'll really drive what we do for the next couple of years. So really encourage all of you, if you can, this would not only help your organizations, but it would really just help uplift the movement as a whole. So if you'd like to learn more, feel free to check out our website or follow us on Instagram. We also have a pretty good presence here at this conference. We have David, our founder, who's going to join us for our Q&A. We also have Stefan, who is one of our lead developers as well. So please just stop us, say hi. We're, as a capacity building organization, we're so interested in knowing what you all are doing at the ground level and just understanding how we can help. Thank you so much. Do I need to?
Thank you very much, Malina. The next speaker is Karolina Centkowska, a campaign manager from Anima International and my colleague.
Okay, so we have gathered here today to celebrate me and to hear a little bit about how to promote plant-based diet with the support of medical community. In general, we in Roślinne Wyzwanie, which is plant-based challenge, have been focusing on working with medical community for more than a year now, and today I'm planning on telling you a little bit about it. Why is medical community so important? We believe that we as activists don't have that good of a reach or authority in getting people to do what we want. I mean, we do get them to do what we want. But at the same time, we are not very convincing because we have our specific agenda. And when it comes to doctors, they should be the natural authority to tell people about nutrients, about health, about how to take care of their bodies, how to prevent diseases. So using their help is really important and is really helping us driving this message to be more mainstream and not just about, something that we want to do for animals. So what we did is we managed to cooperate with Polish Society of Lifestyle Medicine, which is a group of doctors, very dedicated ones, who helped us create a lot of materials about nutrients in plant-based diet, about how to balance your diet well, about how to supplement it well. In general, everything that is important data to know when you start to eat more plant-based. And their mission in general is to make the population more healthy and to prevent diseases from spreading. Together we came up with plant-based challenge, health edition. So we took our existing program, which was plant-based challenge, that people could have signed up for on our website and receive 30 days of newsletters. And we twisted it a little bit into the direction of health. So we added a lot of materials about how to generally make the diet more healthy, how it works when it comes to the body, how it prevents diseases, how it can function in everyday life. And basically, we created a lot of important resources that can be used also by doctors. So our mission in general was that we wanted to speak the voice of doctors. So we reached out to medical influencers and we got their support. More than 40 influencers last year decided to support us in promoting plant-based diet. And we sent them boxes. We managed to get some media attention. We managed to get some sponsors and some podcast appearances. We created webinars. Generally, a lot of things happened in 2021. And because it was quite successful for us, we were very happy with the results. We decided to do it again in 2022. And we came up with using the old materials that we already had. We came up with a new promotion plan. We reached even wider, and we created a new brochure, which I will tell you about in a second. Okay. So what was new for us as well is that we cooperated with a pharmaceutical company, which can be quite controversial because those companies can be sketchy, but in this case, they reached out to us, and it was a very good opportunity because it turned out that they were very dedicated in promoting healthy supplementation in plant-based diet, for example, and they were very aware of how we function. They were very aware of our message, and they also wanted it to be scientific-based. They wanted it to be, in general, good also for promoting plant-based diet. They wanted to help us with that. So what they had and what they could support us with is basically money. We got financial support from them, and because of that we managed to do even more cool stuff. So together we created this brochure, Roślinny Starter, which is basically plant-based starter kit. And we used our existing brochure and we added some new medical data, which made it more friendly for doctors. And also with help of this pharmaceutical company, we managed to print out a lot of copies. At the end of the day, it was 30,000 that we distributed. 20,000 we distributed ourselves, 10,000 it was the company's job. They wanted to push it in their own channels, but our distribution looked basically like this. We wanted to include doctors, so we told them that they can sign up to receive the brochure and then later on distribute it to their own patients. So yeah, we gave it to the doctors, they gave it to their patients, and this way we believe we could reach a much different audience than normally, because in general Some people will never see us on social media. Some people will never sign up for our newsletters. These are mostly young people who are already quite invested so that they would sign up for 30-day newsletter. It's a big commitment. But this paper brochure that we were distributing could really reach the older people who are coming to their doctor's office for an appointment. It can really reach people that we will never be able to get otherwise. And what is very important for us is to not only reach to people who are already kind of convinced. These are not the people that we want to reach. We want to mostly reach people who are not very aware about the diet. So taking a paper brochure is much less of a commitment, much less of a thing to do than dedicating yourself to a long newsletter line or whatever. In general, our main goal was to reach the medical community and make doctors our advocates for the plant-based diet, which I believe we quite successfully did using the established connection from Polish Society of Lifestyle Medicine. And we plan on continue to do this in many forms in the future. We have some plans for that. But yeah, that's basically what I wanted to share today. Thank you very much. This is a photo of bread. And if you want to reach out to me or whatever, that's my email, or you can come up to me and say hi, and I will say hi.
Thank you very much, Karcia. Thank you very much. Just to remind you, Eventory app, questions to speakers, just add the name, who is the speaker that you want to ask the question. And the next person to give us their lightning talk is Thomas Hecquet, the director from Animal Society. Welcome, Thomas. Okay. So it's Lukas now. Okay. Okay. A little bit of a little confusion. Lukas Jasiunas now, co-founder and head of research at Healthier Hens.
Thank you all. Is it on? We're here? Yeah. Thank you all. Thomas, sorry, you'll have to wait a bit for your turn. So continuing from Karolina's topic, food. But I'm going to talk about food for chickens, specifically for hens that lay eggs. Okay. Is that better? Yes. Okay. Did you hear anything that I've just said? Okay. Nice. So thanks, everyone, again. Today, I'm just going to quickly present why we think that looking at nutrition for farmed animals could be another avenue for us to exert pressure on the farming industry, essentially. So even though we're making good progress on transitioning from cage systems onto cage-free, we're still seeing that there is neglected pain that is applicable in both systems. And eventually, if we're just going to the next better system, we're simply transferring those problems along the line. And essentially, feed, as the food that's given to the animals on the farms, has only been recently looked at through the lens of the 5 freedoms model. So essentially, freedom from thirst and hunger. As long as the animal is fed and given water, all is well, right? There's no mention of welfare. It's only the physiological well-being that is being looked at. Instead of, for instance, looking at whether the animal experiences any stress, any pain, or any other psychological issues along the lines. And of course, we also know very well that in terms of egg production, feed can comprise up to 80% of the entire cost of the farming operation. So obviously, it is a big section of the farming business, and one that potentially we could be able to tap into in terms of exerting pressure and using this as a new angle to put that said pressure onto the factory farming businesses. So the problem that we're specifically trying to test and look into has to do with egg-laying hen feed. So obviously, hens have been selected to produce a lot of eggs, 10 times more than in the last 40 years or so. This creates a big biological need on their bodies for certain specific nutrients that are key to their bone health, development, growth, and of course, sustainability. So that, combined with feed quality that has been optimized for productivity rather than the welfare of the hen, of course, could lead to immense pain. And through recent research, we're seeing that this is true, as on many farms, the issue, for instance, of keelbone fractures is so widespread that it's simply uniform at this point. So all of this combined leads us to believe that there might be a possibility to achieve impact, to improve the well-being and welfare of these hens at a great scale and potentially cost-effectively. So as I mentioned, it is a neglected area because feed has always been seen as just that one thing that is a part of farming, but no one really talks about. So through the work of such groups as Phonalytics or the Welfare Footprint Project, we're seeing that we can actually prioritize. We can see which animal products cause the most suffering, which are, let's say, the most neglected. And of course, we're even now able to compare the different welfare issues that the different animals experience in order for us to prioritize, right? To assign our limited resources the best way we can. So what we've been doing is, in our first year, first of all, we had to choose a country. So we visited several, did some scoping. We tested some commercial feeds available on the market. And even in leading countries such as Germany and the US, we're seeing that those feeds that are heavily regulated, that are out there on the market, they are still suboptimal in several nutrients such as calcium, phosphorus, vitamin D3, that are of course super important for the hen's well-being. And in our target country in Africa, in Kenya, we're seeing that the issue is as widespread and in some cases even more so. So what does this mean for the hens? Well, obviously, since there is this gap between what is optimal for the welfare of the hen and what is optimal for the productivity, there is a chance to actually improve the bone health of the animals, to make them simply endure less pain and suffering while they're stuck in this system of ours. And of course, if untreated or if unaddressed, this issue will continue to affect millions of hens, whichever housing system they are in. So our theory of change essentially comprises of two phases. In the first part, we want to collaborate with progressive cage-free farmers to take a look whether they actually can see improvements in the welfare of the hens on farm, which of course should ideally lead to a reduction in the fractures that I mentioned before. And with the help of those early adopters, with showing that the farmers are actually concerned about the quality of the feed, we then would be able to collaborate with other local NGOs and put pressure on the government so that the policies, the regulations in place that are supposed to make sure that the hens are getting good feed is actually implemented and enforced effectively. So far we've been essentially staking and scoping what is there out there. So meeting with different stakeholders ranging from, of course, animal NGOs in the region, of course, also the government and the regulatory bodies that are supposed to keep an eye on these issues. We're seeing what issues they see from their point of view, what struggles they see, why they, for instance, don't want to move towards stricter standards. We're also meeting with industry players, so the feed mills, so the producers of those feeds, the farms themselves, seeing what real issues they face, and of course spreading the knowledge on both cage-free and also the feed issue that I just mentioned through workshops and through conferences just like this one. And we're about to hit our 1-year mark, so for the next year, we're going to take a look at actually how widespread is this issue in Kenya and in Africa in general, because they don't have that data just yet. But it's, yeah, the indication is strong that the issue is widespread, because right now it's all over the world. And then, of course, we want to quantify the expected welfare improvement. So what happens when you do actually give the feed that is optimal for the welfare of the hen? How much of an improvement can we actually see? Is it worth it in the end? So through research and through working in better understanding the landscape and how these different stakeholders struggle to make change, we hope to find a way to lever and to actually push for that change as, for instance, an additional ask after having transitioned to cage-free. So just as I've said, so as we're transitioning, the support needs to be there because we want to keep the momentum going, right? We don't want the progress to stop at cage-free. So feed could be one of those issues, and of course it is a widespread topic that could range from any species. I'm just, taking a case study of the hens, but this could be all over the place. So thank you so much. If any of you do happen to work with egg-laying hens, please reach out. We'd love to hear from you and learn from you. And we're more than happy to share anything that we've found so far. And yeah, let's keep it going. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Lukas. And once again, apologize for the mess up. Welcome, Thomas Hecquet, I'm sorry, from Animal Society.
Is it working? Check, 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 check. Check, 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 check. Okay. Not that well, no? Okay, I'll hold it. Yeah. All right. Yeah, thanks for the introduction and thanks for the invitation. Thanks for the whole organization team and thanks to all the participants for being here or online. Well, my name is Thomas Hecquet, and I've been working in the movement for about 15 years, more recently in an organization called Animal Society, founded in 2020 in Germany. We focus on political change for animals, and I'll try to give you, through this presentation, a few insights and ideas on how to use data for the sake of animal advocacy. So we are focusing on outreach, movement building, and political campaigns for the rights and interests of animals in Germany and in the European Union. We are a team of 6, gathering about 30 years of experience in the animal movement and in different fields: investigation, law, communication, and animal politics. Politically, there are different ways to try to reduce animal suffering in society. More generally, it is either on reducing the number of animals being exploited or reducing the suffering of the animals being exploited through better laws or better enforcement of these laws, or more tax on animal products or less tax on plant-based products to influence the production of animal products and the animal exploitation. There is another approach, that's the one Animal Society is focusing on, is to increase the representation of animal interest in institutions. So for example, having an animal protection commissioner or an animal protection ministry, so to ask the state to invest more on animal protection. Now moving to the main part of the presentation. So there are discussions in the movement, which sometimes can be a bit confusing about what it is to be an effective charity. When one claims to be effective, implicitly to be more effective than others, it is sound to question it and take a look at what is being stated and how it is justified. If it is justified by figures, then it is important to take a look at the figures, and especially what figures exactly described in the work of the organization whose goal is to change society. There are a lot of resources on assessing organizations outside of the animal movement and outside of effective altruism. A solution proposed by a German organization, which is called PHINEO, so P-H-I-N-E-O, They also have resources in English, so the model I will show you is also found online in English, is in my opinion very helpful. They are asking themselves what it is to be impact-oriented. Impact-oriented organizations should plan their work to climb up the so-called result staircase. It's what you can see here. Of course, ideally, you would be able to see, actually measure if your work pays off, to monitor it at every step of the staircase. I must say it is not always possible or makes sense to track the impacts, but at least one should have in mind at what step of the stair we are actually moving or measuring. The stairs can also be used when you have a series of KPIs, so of indicators. We are monthly tracking our performances in the organization, and our KPIs or key performance indicators are based in this model, on this model. So if we take a look at the result staircase of Fineo, with the example of reaching a society where animals are protected by certain legal rights, well, we start with resources. That's stage 0. It cannot be seen on the slide, but without that, then we cannot do anything for the animals. Resources can be either money, so donations, or the work from volunteers. At level 1 is where things start to grow. Output is rising. Activities are carried out as planned. So for example, we are producing content, publishing the content online, or writing press releases. At the second step, target groups are being reached. So I found an appropriate location for the event, reaching a broad public. As indicators, you can use the number of people being reached on the website or on social media. The stage 3, you have to take care of how you reach the target groups. So you have to be convincing towards activists, politicians, or voters. At the 4th stage, change is unfolding. So until now, you should speak about output. From the 4th stage, you can speak about outcome. Change is unfolding at stage 4. The target groups start to change their attitudes, so their abilities and their opinion about the issue. At the 5th stage, the target groups start to change their behavior. So voters vote differently and politicians take different decisions. At the stage 6, the target group's living conditions change. A law is being passed, for example. Political decision has been taken. In the last stage, that's where you can speak strictly taken about impact, is when society changes in a sustainable way. Attitudes and behavior change on a wider level. Not always possible to measure at every step, but at least always have the final impact in mind, guiding our work. This is what I eventually want to reach, what makes sense. Next example of using data. So to prepare our first campaign last year and to refine our strategy, we designed a study, in our case, a survey. We went for a representative survey, working with an external institute. So beyond age, education, gender, income, or political affiliation, we had a series of 20 questions about statements, questions about animal politics in Germany. What we could find out from the survey is that quite clearly and generally speaking, a major change is needed in Germany. That's what 75% of the population wants. Furthermore, tremendous support for a commissioner for animal protection, 76%. And the third, one of the question, the third here in this graph is about having a change of law to have a more ethical law to protect animals. 78% of the population support this claim. Out of this survey, we wrote a report, a study, analyzing the results, segmented by parties' affiliations or sympathizers, and we worked with the press to get media coverage. So the segmentation based on parties is also a way when we approach political parties to show to them also your voters care. And as you can imagine, and that's what our survey proved, is that animal protection is more or less important. through the political spectrum of voters at least, but it's important for all parties from right to left for the voters. So surveys are also a mean to get media attention and to inform the population and decision maker on what the majority really wants. People want change for the animals, and we need to show it through survey in this case. Our survey also supported our first campaign, whose goal was to create a representation of animals in state institutions. So more concretely, we were demanding at first the establishment of an animal protection officer or ombudsman on a federal level. At the end of last year, there was government change in Germany. The current government is now led by Social Democrats, the Greens, and the Liberals. And luckily, our first request has been taken into consideration in the so-called coalition contract. I quote it: "We will create the position of a federal animal protection officer." So it's a promise, but at least a strong one. In all honesty, we were not the only group advocating for this change, and we were not the first either. Now, 1 year later, it is about the realization of this claim. As important as the competencies which this commissioner should have are also the means that she or he has for the animals. So the means and the team for the animals. So in this case, it's important to take a look at the budget. Animal protection in Germany is only a very tiny part of the Ministry for Agriculture and Food. And based on the finances of this ministry, with a budget of 7 billion a year, most of it going to subsidies to farmers in general, we will justify our claim to have at least 1% for the animals. That would be 70 million a year for animal protection. Here another example of studying figures to support our mission. In that case, subsidies. Oh, sorry, I missed them all. Subsidies. This study has been published last year in Germany by a network called Together Against the Animal Industry. They calculated the amount of subsidies going to the meat industry, and it's at least 13 billion per year. It led to a major media coverage, and now is being used as a reference. Not only we are evaluating our work, but we are also evaluating the work of others. In our case, our most important target groups, which are decision makers, politicians. So directly inspired by a project from the L214, it's a French organization called Politique Animaux, we have listed all the members of the German parliaments, searched and evaluated their political activities. So it can be statements or votes for or against animals. The activities are also categorized in the fields. So for example, farm animals or wild animals, animals used for entertainment, etc. Each activity is being noted. They receive a grade and is also weighted based on the impact on animals. So politicians have a grade, and then parties also have a grade. So we don't evaluate that for the sake of evaluation, but for each politician and for each party, we are asking the visitors of the website to be engaged, so to address the politician, to ask them for change. For the evaluation, it was a quite challenging task, but we were supported by an amazing organization called Expertise for Animals, which is here in the room. To come to an end to my presentation, we're also now currently launching a network of organizations and experts on the representation of animals' interest in state institutions. So the initiative will be called Representing Animals. So if you are an organization or an individual, an expert, willing to work in this field in Europe or another country, you don't hesitate to connect to us. And we are also working on a EU campaign to ban chick culling. We are already working with a few organizations, but if you want to support this campaign, don't hesitate to contact me or my colleague Carlota, also who is in the room. Thanks for the attention, and I'm ready for questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you stay with us, Thomas? Thank you very much. Remember app questions. Can I ask our amazing speakers to come up here and join us? David, as well. There's one microphone, so I will probably ask you to pass it around. Okay. Okay. Okay, we have some questions, and I will start from the top, maybe. Okay, the first question is for Lukas. And the question is, why do you think this has been so neglected by poultry nutritionists? They're aware of issues around bone health. Why wouldn't they improve nutrition to address it? Is it an easy win?
Definitely not an easy win, but it's been neglected. I mean, the answer is simple, right? It's a compromise, always. Productivity versus something else. So the curve, as it goes, is more or less you can have both health and welfare going up with improvements, but at some point productivity just starts to plateau, whereas the welfare keeps going up, and not many people are willing to pay for the welfare improvement in the industry. And of course, the nutritionists, I mean, they do their job. So I think it's not to be pessimistic or anything. I don't think it's like an easy win because it's quite a closed circle, right? The industry. So it's not like we are going to come and they will listen to us all of a sudden. So, but it's definitely an opportunity, I believe, and why not test it?
Okay, but there's another question related to this one. Do you think, what reasons do farmers give for giving hens deficient food? Is it on purpose or is it more neglect?
Easy answer, cost. All about the cost of the feed, because the profit margin for the farmer is very low. So, for instance, we attempt to target the producer of the feed more than the farmer, because the farmer doesn't really have a say. They don't have necessarily the means or the knowledge to really put pressure on the producer. They just say, okay, this works, this doesn't, this is too expensive, this is cheap. So it's a complex question with an easy answer, cost.
Thank you. The next question will be for Karolina. And I saw there were two similar questions. Do you plan to follow up with any of the participants that have received the brochure from the doctor? For example, to check up with them if their dietary change has happened.
So we are planning on reaching out to doctors that received brochures to distribute, which is at this point, I think, more than 150 doctors who are distributing the brochure. And what we want is we want them to give us the feedback of whether this material specifically is what fits their needs when it comes to communicating how to balance the diet, and possibly, if they give us some feedback, we will maybe make it longer or shorter for the future. It would be very hard reaching out to patients who received the brochure, but hopefully we would want to know whether the patients were happy about the brochure from the doctors, because it's like with when you send emails, you can reach out to people that you send emails to. If you give something paper, then it's harder to reach out to them after a while. But also, we are giving out the brochure with not so much medical content, but the regular version that we've been distributing. And we had heard some quite positive feedback from people on our stands when we were on festivals, etc. The important thing that we heard was that they remember about the brochure, they recognized it, they were like, oh, it's super fun, I tried this recipe and this recipe. And basically, if they remember the brochure, which is, if you get a leaflet, you hardly ever remember it. So if they remember a brochure, they probably read it at least once. So that's basically what we want. We want the information to get out there to people who would not get it otherwise.
Thank you. Another question. The next question will be to vegan hacktivists. Thinking about your new research project, what do you predict the tech gaps are in the movement? What have you found to date is the most needed service?
That's a tough one. We don't know too much. We have some ideas because we've worked with a lot of organizations. We've worked with, I think, about 70 organizations now in the last half year. So I have an idea of what's the problem is and why they're reaching out to us in the terms of technology and data. But we want to make sure that we don't say anything without having concrete data. We're very passionate about making sure we do that. So that's the point of the survey is to figure it out. So yeah, I wish I could give you more, but I'll give you more after the survey comes out. So please do take it if you can. Thank you.
Okay, just to follow up on this, do you think NGOs will generate enough demand to meet the supply of volunteer specialists, or do you also provide them with ideas for new projects if they are not sure what they could apply those skills to? Or maybe on the other hand, maybe the demand is high and you need more volunteers. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Again, do you think NGOs will generate enough demand so that the volunteer specialists have stuff to do? Or do you have like ideas for new projects for them that they can use their skills to?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think that there are so many unique kind of work that people are doing, and as well as things that people are doing across the board that are very similar and can be streamlined. And so that's kind of like the area that we're also trying to look into. But I definitely think that technology touches so many of our lives and like our work experiences as well. And so just in terms of the things that people are asking for, reaching out to us for. If anything, we need more, people who are part of vegan hacktivists. There are so many things that we're doing, and we talked a little bit about like data and design and all of that, but really just getting even DevOps folks and animation folks. Like there are so many things that like people can be doing to be servicing NGOs and nonprofits. So it's really just finding, how do we match skills with needs as well. And I guess something that we can talk about is Playground. And so that's also something that we've just recently launched, and we have yet to announce it. So I guess you guys are all hearing so many things for the first time today. But it is basically a platform on our website in which if you have any sort of request for help, and this can be either volunteer or compensated, then that's something that you can post. And we don't always have the capacity, and our team doesn't have the capacity to service everyone's needs, but we also have volunteers who just want to do one-off pro bono projects, and so they can see what your project is and enlist themselves to help. So that's also something that you can do on our website, veganhacktivist.org/playground. Yeah, there's just a lot of need everywhere, and it's just finding kind of like the right talent, the right skills to really get everyone the help that they need.
Thank you. Next question will be to Thomas. Have you thought about campaigns to introduce those ombuds offices on the Bundesland, federal and state office level? Sorry.
Yeah, so in Germany it already exists in a few provinces, because animal protection is a shared competence between the federal state and the regional states. Yeah, of course we would like also that on different levels. Local level is more responsible for law enforcement, so it's also important. Yeah, so in every provinces in the federal state in Germany, we also support a campaign called EU for Animals, which is a EU-wide campaign for animal protection commissar. Yeah, on every level. So more competencies, more people, more means for the animals. It can be to initiate new laws, it can be to make research, it can be to have a better enforcement or to make education programs also. I mean, what we don't think it's okay is that at the end, civil society, so people or foundations are engaged for animal protections. We do think the state must also pay for it, so on different levels, yeah.
Of course. And another question to you, Thomas. Do you think that animal protection in Germany, oh, sorry, I lost connection, will cause the meat production to move even more to other EU countries? That improved animal protection in Germany, will it lead to the production of meat to other countries in Europe?
I know it's a great argument from the animal industry to be used. So if we rise animal welfare standards, then production will go there. Also, will go to Poland, for example, or to Eastern Europe. Yeah, might be, but I think if we fight on different fronts in the whole EU and we are coordinated, then they will have to change, and not everything can move to another country. So.
Yes, thank you. Malina or David, how do your unique codes for outreach materials differ from tracked links?
Can you say it again?
How do your unique codes for outreach materials differ from tracked links? Well, how are they different?
Yeah, so I think this is referring to our Activist Hub project. So essentially, there are programs out there where you can just post a link and track how many clicks it gets. But with our platform, you can find out after they clicked on it what they're doing on the actual page. Are they watching Dominion? Are they taking a 30-day challenge? Like, what are they actually doing after they land on that page? Our tracked links also allow you to customize the resources that are on that page. So different countries, different areas have different needs and different videos and such. So you can kind of customize what happens at the end of that link. And then, yeah, we can also figure out how long they've spent on that page. If they clicked it and disappeared at 5 seconds, then you know you probably didn't make much of an impact. So we just really wanted to give more comprehensive data back to activists so that they know. Additionally, you can also create multiple links. So you could create a link for your Instagram activism. You could create a link just for your friends and family, so you can track to see which family members are actually watching Dominion. And so, yeah, there's a few extra features like that.
And just one thing I wanted to add is, like, if you're doing street outreach as part of like a group, then you can also see your individual data, or you can also see the aggregate data, which is like your entire group, just to see how you are all performing as a whole. So I think it's really tailored so that it's like it helps inform your individual activism, but also like in the context of the community as well.
Thank you very much. And unfortunately, we don't have more time for more questions. There were many of them. So, you know, these guys are going to be around. We'll come up to them, talk to them, schedule a meeting on Eventory, for example, and yeah, enjoy. Thank you very much for participating. Thank you very much.